Hey everybody, for those of you who don't know, my name's Hoopy, and today we're going to be working on this Bobcat 610 skid steer. So I thought I should show you guys how we wound up getting the skid steer from the position it is in the thumbnail to the garage itself. And this here's the little clip we have for that. First thing we got to do is get this old girl off this trailer. And we simply hooked the chain up to the dozer here, hooked her to here, and he gonna go ahead and just pull one out. Voila, that's one way to do it. It has been a crazy last 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks since I unloaded this thing, and I have not got to touch it. We've had torrential downpours, we've had flooding, I've had multiple bikes here for service, getting ready for riding season. So we're finally back here to get ready to work on this skid steer. I have not touched this thing since it has arrived. And first thing we need to do here, I brought a tire bar out. Somebody already did us the liberty of pulling this cover off. We're just going to stick this right here on this old flywheel part here. Oh, she moves. She did move. So she's not locked up. It's got something in there. I'm not too crazy about the rust, but that could just be condensation. But there is something in it, oil of some sort. So backstory on this thing, while we're going over this and just checking a few things. This belonged to my wife's grandfather. He passed away tragically in a tractor accident. Roughly 20 years ago, I'm going to say. And this thing was on the farm over there. And her cousin, whenever he was about 14 years old, was running it one day. And this side, the tires locked up. Wouldn't turn anymore while he was running it. And it didn't run real great. They had to run it half choked and everything. But from that point, it sat in the barn for a long time till they got the new 590. And then they put this thing out to pasture. It's been sitting outside, untouched, for, I want to say, the last 8 years, roughly, I think. And, so anyhow, me being the gearhead that I kind of am, I decided that I had to have this thing over here to work on it and see if I could get it running and moving again. So we've got good signs so far. The motor's not locked up. You can see where someone tried to pull this cover off. They took all them bolts out. But it appears to me, and that says remove to adjust steering clutch. And that doesn't look like it came off. to pull this cover. We're going to try to pull those caps off and see if that cover will come off so I can see what's in there. I'm assuming, now I have no idea, I've never been in one of these, that there's chains that go to each wheel on this, because this is I want to say he said it was an 83 model. It's pretty old. So, but I don't know. I don't know how these work. So let's try to get those caps off. Well, I was right about chains being in there. Oh yeah, there's a broken chain. So it just dawned on me, there's an open sprocket. There's the chain. Come on, focus. Hello. There's the chain back there. There's this great big sprocket. Goes around up here. I don't know. There's a chain going to this front wheel. And this one here, going to this rear wheel right here, is down there in the Earl. All right. Well, that is pleasantly pleasing to see. Because if we get this thing to run, we should be able to make it work pretty easy. Maybe I'm using the word easy loosely. But let's get this chain out of here so we can roll this thing into the garage easily. And that I do mean. What a pain. That's ridiculous, man. I tore the heck out of my arm. All right. This side should turn freely now. This kept locking up. That was the issue here. So let's yank on her and get her in the garage. We got this thing shoved in here. New development. Not sure what's going on. I know why this one was locked up, because the chain kept binding up down in there because it was broke. This wheel's locked up as well. That, I don't know why. I mean, the chain's still attached on this one, so that would mean that there's something going on here. But what? I guess let's tear into it. We'll get it running. We'll tear into this. We'll figure it out. Let's jack it up. We're going to mess with it. And let's hope we can see this thing cheat sometime soon here. We'll get this gate out of our way and then go from there. Old coil and a distributor. This is a little gas job, by the way. They probably all were back then, I'm assuming. I'm going to go ahead and yank a couple of these covers and stuff out of my way here. Let me know in the comments if you guys have ever seen that video of the history of the Bobcat, where them two brothers invented it, and it started out with it was a two-wheel drive thing with a caster in the back for cleaning out turkey barns. That was pretty interesting. I like stuff like that. I like learning about this kind of junk. I literally think that cover's made out of an old road sign. At least that's what it looks like to me. All right, I see the starter down in there now. There's the alternator. Now we're getting somewhere. Just for the heck of it, we're going to yank a spark plug out of here. And that's not the greatest thing to see. So, let's see here. Let's see if I can get you guys to focus a little bit better here. Come on. Alright, that plug is really nasty. A little bit rusty. Looks like it's got some terrible gap. But they did get anti-seized in there, so that's a good thing. But we're going to, just for good measure... Oh. Oh, okay. Just for good measure. Just a little penetrating will done in some of these maybe. Damn mud daubers. Them things build nests everywhere. What's the point of a mud dauber? All they do is go around and pack a bunch of dirt in places that it don't need to be, and they look just like a wasp. What's the point of a mud dauber? I absolutely no clue. They cause me a lot of misery, I'll tell you that. They plug off vent lines and make you take your razor that's brand new in under warranty, thinking that it's going to be a warranty job, and then they tell you a mud dauber built a nest in a vent line for the turbo, and that you have to pay $83 because they cleaned it out. I hate mud daubers, if you can't tell. Huh. That spark plug there is acting like it's cross-threaded in here or something. There it goes. I'm going to assume that's why these are anti-seized in here, because they ain't playing nice. It looks like it's got aluminum heads on it. Alright, I've been lubing some linkages up and doing some stuff like that. I just almost don't know where to begin. I kind of just want to throw a battery in it and see if we can get it to crank, but I know the carburetor's clear gummed up. It's got to be. And it probably won't even have any spark. But screw it. Let's throw the battery in it. And just to be safe, that one looks like ground. Yep, and that one's going to the starter. Oh boy. We've got a battery in it and hooked up. No kidding. We got an amp gauge that works. And we got a bad switch. Kind of figured that. We're going to get power to the coil. And we're going to have to get power to the starter. I'm going to run some jumper wires, I guess. So it took me a couple minutes. I rigged me up a jumper wire for the coil here. And I took an old winch controller switch. And I'm going to run this to the battery and to the starter. And I wired it on both wires so that either direction I push this, it'll ignite. I think I'm connected to the right terminal down there on the starter. I can't hardly see anything. And before I ignite this coil, or make it hot, let's just see if the button does anything. Well, the starter kicks in. which way is this thing supposed to roll? Let's see if we can't roll this motor over a little bit more by hand here. I got to turn a little bit more.
One hour later.
We might have bigger issues than what I thought. I got the motor working back and forth, but I hit a spot every time. So I'm guessing one of these cylinders is rusted up pretty good. And I'm coming up and hitting that rust and stopping. I'm going to go ahead and pull the other two spark plugs and try to spray some stuff down in them. I'm not even 100% sure if it's actually getting into the cylinders or not. So, but anything will help at this point. Maybe even leave the spark plugs out. We're turning through our bad spot, slowly but surely. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that whenever they designed these things, they didn't do it with the mechanic in mind. That's for sure. We're going a little brake fluid down the cylinders to break up some of that rust. What else do we have we can dump down here? Let's just put a whole mixture. What's it gonna hurt, right? About a little bit of high mileage ATF. So after about, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours of work of rolling this motor back and forth, I've got it to where it'll do about 3/4 of a revolution and then it stops hard. I busted my knuckle there. So I filled all 4 cylinders up with a concoction of brake fluid, penetrating oil, automatic transmission fluid, and a little bit of Rotella tea. Just topped them clear off. And I've got it to a point here. Here's the flywheel. I can rock it back and forth pretty easy here. And you can watch fluid and stuff pop up out of these cylinders. So my plan is, let her sit. I'm gonna leave her like that overnight. Might be back on it tomorrow. We'll see. And we'll go from there. So it's the next day, and I came down here, and unfortunately off camera, I decided to, not record this in case it didn't work. I went ahead and stuck the bar in here and turned it, and I got the engine to make 1 full revolution. And it shot oil out of the cylinders that I had filled up and stuff like that. So I'm going to crank it over a couple more times by hand, and then I'm going to pull the starter off, because even though the starter was clicking the other day, I got to thinking about this. This is probably one of them older starters, and that was either just the solenoid engaging and it's not making contact through, or it's the I forget what it's called, but it's kicking the starter gear in, but the starter is actually not trying to turn at all. And so I'm going to yank the starter out and see if it's locked up, or maybe something's just got a bad connection. So we'll roll this over a couple times and pull the starter off. All right. Well, let's get to pulling that starter off there. So, in order to get down in here to the starter, which is right down in there, I've got to get this cover off here. There's a couple bolts, like 1, 2, 3, and 4. That cover should come off, and there might be another one underneath of it. I can't really tell right now. It's going to be hard for me to record this, so I'm going to yank those off, and then I'll show you what I'm looking at. So, I got the one cover off, and I don't know if you can see all that. That thing is packed clear full. That's the air shroud, because this is an air-cooled engine. And it is just clear packed full mouse nest. So I went ahead and got the shop vac. I'm going to vacuum that out so I can get to that second cover. And hopefully then I can get to that starter and make this easier. So after about 20 minutes of fighting with this piece of junk, getting these air shrouds off here, I finally got to where I can see the starter. And it looks like there's probably only 2 bolts, maybe 3. I'm guessing only 2. I can see one up top. Probably one underneath. And hopefully I can get that starter off there. Well, I got it out of there. And I'm gonna say that I'm pretty sure that the starter on my 7.3 liter Power Stroke is not this big and heavy. This is ridiculous. So we're gonna get it mounted up here in the vise, and I'm gonna go get the battery charger, and we're going to do a bench test on this thing. All right, we got our ground hooked up. Let's see. Let's put about 60 amps to it. And we're going to hook our positive over here like we're supposed to. We're going to get our little jumper wire. Well, it's running. It wouldn't do that in the machine, though. Must have had a bad connection or something, I guess. Well, the starter's good. So, let's fight it back down in there and get the battery cable hooked. We need the main battery cable. I'm not so much worried about the one that powers this because I'm going to use a jumper anyhow. Okay, I got our starter back down in there. I got our battery hooked up. I cleaned all the terminals very well. Took a wire wheel to the ones that mount up to it. Hooked our little jumper switch here up. And so, now, there's going to be the moment of truth. Well, so the starter ain't got much oomph, but I've got it hooked up to the battery. I'm going to put the battery charger on it. Maybe my battery's going bad on me and I just didn't realize that. And then I'm going to like kind of hang my head for a minute because if that is the case, I wasted all that time for nothing. So let's hook the battery charger up, see what happens. All right, we got the charger hooked up, got her up on 250 amp boost, and oh, did you see the oil shoot out? All right. Now we're getting somewhere. Ew. Ew. That's what was stopping us from turning the motor before, all that rust and stuff. That's good, work her loose. How full's the oil pan? I figure it filled, oh yeah, it filled up a little bit. All that stuff running down through them cylinder rings. That's good though. That's what we want to see. I am a little bit disappointed because clearly that means my battery's going bad. Dang it. Okay, we'll get back to this in just a minute. All right, so just for fun, for the sake of it, I stuck a spark plug in here And let's crank it, see if we got spark. Okay, we're gonna have to do it over here. And hopefully we don't get covered in oil. I'm gonna move out of the way, as a matter of fact. Okay, focus there. Yeah, I didn't figure we. So we know we don't have spark. I excited the coil, but that doesn't mean anything. It could be a bad coil or it could be bad points and stuff. So let's tear that apart and clean that next, and we'll let this battery charge for a while longer. So let's go ahead and pop this distributor cap off here. Just take a look in here and see what we got. Need a flat screwdriver. Nice if I could get that coil wire off there. There it comes. Okay. Of course. Yep, it's got points in it. Well, those don't look too hateful. I don't know, she's pretty burned up right there. The rotor button looks a little rough. So, I went ahead and decided to pull the points and condenser out and stuff to clean everything up. And I'm glad I did. This distributor is actually full of like water and really dirty down in there. So I'm gonna spray it down with brake clean, blow it out with the air hose, and probably try to hit stuff with some WD-40 and just try to clean that up inside there real good. And then from there, this coil shot, reason being this post broke and was turning through into the coil itself. It's cracked. So we're gonna need a new coil regardless. I have an old one from something else that I might try to use, but I don't know if it'll work either. We'll try it, see what happens. But hopefully, what I'd really like to do is go ahead and just get a new coil, new points, condenser, cap and button, and just get all that so I know I could get good spark, so I could probably get this thing to run. But for now, I'm just gonna have to try to clean this stuff up and see if that helps anything. Alright, so I took and I cleaned this stuff up really good. I sanded down all my contact points, including the points themselves. I made sure I took all this part where the condenser touches and sanded all that down, got it all nice and clean. And then back over here, I cleaned out the inside of this distributor really well, sprayed it all out with brake clean and blew it out there. And I sanded my contacts and stuff here. So I'm gonna reassemble that, and then we're gonna see about doing something with the coil. Alright, so I got everything back in here and got it hooked up, got my ground hooked up from the coil to the points and stuff. Everything's sanded and down. I've readjusted the points to 20 thousandths whenever they're open. Just slid the coil in here and I'll hook my hot wire to it in a minute. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the rotor button back on and the cap, and then we'll hook the battery and charger and everything up and see if we can crank this and get some spark out of it. Let's see what happens here. I could have swore I saw that spark for a second. Pumping hydraulic fluid. Let's stick a screwdriver in one of these wires, and maybe it's that. Maybe spark plugs are bad. Nope, we ain't got no spark still. Man, I can smell dead gas. That fuel pump's working, that's for sure. I'm guessing this coil's probably no good either. I don't know, the condenser in there could be shot too. I should be able to, I don't know. So I should be able to take this and hold it right here close. If the coil's good, it should spark. I'm gonna get shocked probably. Coil is no good, no spark. Well, let's make sure that these contacts are contacting. Okay, they're closed. Ooh, we got something there. I suppose it could be this wire. Oh, there we go. We got spark. This wire wasn't in that coil good enough. Okay, let's see if we can get spark to the plugs. Okay. All right. Spark plug. We've got nothing there. Here's all this dead gas I'm smelling. Watch this. It's done pumped the cylinders clear full. So I need to unhook the fuel pump, or at least fuel going to the pump real quick. And then we'll get back onto this. So I've been sitting here cranking this, trying to get spark out of spark plugs. And if anyone has noticed what I'm missing, and what I just realized I'd done, so it's not going to spark anywhere without that inside that. At all. I don't give a damn what you do. It's not going to work without that. So I got to put that in there and we might have spark. All right, let's give this one more try here. I saw it spark. It's not 100% consistent, but we've got it. And I did see it spark out of here once too, jumping across. So we'll have to get the cover back onto that somehow. And yeah, all right, we've got spark. I'm gonna make sure all the gas has got blowed out of that cylinder because I unhooked the fuel pump so it stopped pumping that stuff. And yeah, let's put the spark plugs back in it and just see what the hell happens. So just to be safe, before I tried cranking this over here, I wanted to get you guys to see it. I decided I'd pull the intake tube off here, and that's what I'm facing with all that gas. That is clear full, the whole carburetor. I pulled the drain on the bowl right down there and drained it out. So now I've just got to figure out how to get all the gas out of the actual throat of the carburetor, and I think it kind of looks to me like I can take this screw loose and pop this fitting off here, and then that should let all that drain. So that's what I'm going to do real quick. So it looks like at some point somebody had tried to silicone that neck on there, It must have had a leak there, and they were trying to seal it up. Oh yeah, it's broke. Sorry, it's broke. So yeah, they would have a bad air leak there. Probably have to get a new one of those or make a rubber boot and fit it down to the carburetor itself. Would be better. Alright, we've got it all hooked up. I'm going to check the battery charger, make sure I'm up on the right amperage. Yep. This whole place smells like dead gas. So I'm hoping it not to backfire, but anything's possible. She's firing. She's trying to fire. She was smoking. We had her cranking over and firing. Let's I'd let it sit for a little bit. Let's see what happens here now. Let me crank up the amps on the charger here. Alright, well, we had her firing, and she started blowing stuff out the dipstick here. I don't know if you can see all that milkshake all over that. So we've got everything stirred up down in there. Let's quit while we're ahead. We're gonna have to drain the oil and put some fresh oil in this thing too. Alright, so it's a new day back in here, and I did not get any new parts today. But my plan is to drain this oil out because it's clear full. And if you guys saw me yesterday whenever I was cranking this thing over, I was using brake clean to try to get it to pop off. Two reasons I was doing that. One, brake cleaner is flammable and it will start an engine. But number two, if you remember, I filled these cylinders clear full of oil and brake fluid and transmission fluid. So my hope was that that would kind of clean that a little bit and help get that off the spark plugs and stuff so it would actually fire. So once I drain this oil, we'll put some new oil in it, and then we'll use actual starting fluid, and we'll see if we can't get this thing to pop off and just fire and maybe keep it running for a few minutes. Alright, so down underneath this thing, right there's your oil drain plug. I have looked this thing over like several times, and I do not see an oil filter on it. And I'm pretty sure this is just like an old lawnmower engine basically, and it doesn't have an oil filter. The only filter that's on it's for the hydraulics, which is right here, because that goes right to the hydraulic pump. So if I'm wrong and somebody else knows and they see this video after I do this and I don't find one, let me know. But I've scoured this thing and there is no oil filter on it. So I don't know. I'm going to drop the oil out anyway. Probably should have did this before I ever tried starting it. Because if you can't see that stuff right there, that's water running out of that. There comes the milkshake. Yeah. She definitely had water in it. That's alright. Ain't nothing a little bit of diesel fuel and some new oil won't clean out. Wasn't like it was ran for hours like that. It was literally tried to crank over. Here. Let me show you why routine maintenance is important. Because the drain plug is plugged off with this freaking goop in the bottom of that drain pan. I mean, this is literally sludge. So probably the mixture of oil and water honestly isn't even going to hurt this thing. Alright, we're going to just crank her over for a few seconds here. I ain't got the coil hooked up so it won't fire. Honestly, a smart person would pull the plugs and let it crank for a while like that. But I'm not that smart. We're going to hook the coil up. If she fires, she'll turn that freaking diesel up in there. It puffs smoke. It's trying to light. She's going to bust off. You just wait. She's going to do it. Alright, so just for the hell of it, I put some 93 octane gas in a squirt bottle, and oil in a water bottle here. We're going to squirt it in there and see if that does anything different. So I decided while I'm waiting on this thing to cool down from all that cranking, I'm going to go ahead and drain that diesel out. And then I've got some clean used oil from where I just changed oil in a Honda Talon. The oil is pretty clean. I put it in a used oil jug, but I'm going to dump it in here because it's going to be way better than what was in it, of course. And then this way, after we've run it a little bit, we can drain it and change it, and we won't be out anything. So I just decided to yank that one spark plug out because that one there was probably the worst cylinder. And I've got stuff working against me. Such as, I don't know if you can see how gummed up with gunk that spark plug is. But that's why I'm not getting this thing to fire yet. I mean, you can only imagine if any of the other ones are like that, it's not wanting to take off because, well, clearly this spark plug can't even spark. So I think I'm going to yank all the plugs back out and look at each one and see which one's the worst. Maybe spray them down real good with brake clean and try to rotate the engine and get it cleared out, blow air in it, something. I think it's going to help me anyhow. Like I said, that's all that brake fluid and Rotella and transmission fluid and penetrating oil, all that good stuff. This one here was the next one. It's not as bad. It could spark probably, but you know it's pretty close too. So I'll pull the rest and we'll go from there. Here's what the front two look like. They're clean and dry, and I'm going to accredit this to the fact that if you didn't notice earlier, or whenever I was trying to start it last time, that the front two cylinders filled clear full with gas. Then I blew all that gas out, then tried to, ignite it, and that's why they're clean. So I need to do something like that with these back two. Fill them up with some gas, brake clean, something, crank the hell out of it, try to get that oil and stuff out of there, and I think I have a pretty good chance of getting this thing to run at that point. Fill her up with some brake clean. One more again. Timing might be a little bit off. Wow, that was loud. Backfired out the exhaust. Better than the intake, because that's where my hand was. I gotta figure something out. Something's wrong somewhere, because it shouldn't be doing that. That is loud. Alright, it's a new day, and I had some time to sleep on this and think about this, and I know why it's backfiring out the exhaust. I have a stuck valve. It's the only thing that makes sense, and because whenever this thing's coming up, it's pushing the fresh gas and stuff straight out the exhaust. Whenever it fires, it's letting it fire and come boom. And that's what's going on. I have a stuck exhaust valve. I'm like 90% sure that it is this cylinder right here. Mainly because this one's the one that looked like it had basically mud inside of it. It was so rusty and dirty. So, to test my theory, I plan on literally pulling this spark plug wire and pulling this plug out, and we'll just crank it and try to start it on 3 cylinders, especially now that we know that this one's firing, since I cleaned it out yesterday too. We can also, I know that this one has compression already from putting my thumb over it. It's not great compression, but it does have compression. I can try that with this one, and I guarantee you I won't have anything. So we'll try that. And then we're going to crank it and try to start it on 3 cylinders. And that'll at least stop the boom out the exhaust. And it might let it kind of putt and run. We'll try it. Yeah, there is nothing on that cylinder. I can actually see the the intake valve opening and closing. Okay, see that gap back in there? That should open and close. See the other valve coming up and whatnot, and that one's not moving. So that exhaust valve is stuck wide open. I would think that if I could get this to run on 3 cylinders, it would heat up and maybe knock that one loose. There's a chance of that. Or if I could get something stuck up under there that's bent, I might be able to shove it down. Otherwise, I'm probably going to have to pull the head, because there's no way, I don't think I'm going to get down into, there's supposed to be inspection covers on the sides of these heads for the valves, because it's a flathead engine. I don't think I'm going to get those off, and I really don't want to pull a head. So let's try to start it on 3 cylinders. Let's go for that first. All right, so we went and got us 4 new spark plugs here. We're going to put 3 of them in, because we're going to leave that one out. We're going to see if this thing will pop off now. All right, I got everything hooked back up. Let's go for it, right? Does that count as running? Because that does to me. I don't know about you guys. she pops off. She's been running a little bit. I can actually feel some heat on it. That's good. That valve's still stuck open. Of course, it didn't magically do that. Let's try adding a little bit of gas instead of starting fluid, so we can quit wasting that. Yeah, evidently not. Well, hot diggity damn, she runs. Technically, on 3 cylinders, but I did have it running. I don't know about you guys, but to me, a will it run video is making the damn thing run, and I made it run. Theoretically. Could it run better? Yeah, clean out the carb and get it that 3rd cylinder or 4th cylinder taken off. But currently I am out of time. I have bikes stacking back up in the driveway again. That one got hit by a car. That one locked up. I've got that stuff to deal with. So currently this project is going to be shoved over into the corner, and whenever I get time, I'll work on it. As for now, that there was the Will It Run on the Bobcat 610 skid steer. If you guys like videos like this, go check out the rest of my channel. Thanks for watching.